There's fantastic breaking news coming out of Minnesota. Well, fantastic if you actually love America and you want to make America great again. Bad if you're a Democrat, you love Joe Biden, or you're a Marxist or a progressive. Donald Trump's campaign has announced that they are opening up 8 field offices in Minnesota. This never happens. And when I say never, I literally mean never. Minnesota has not had a presidential Republican campaign open up 8 field offices, to my knowledge, ever. Ever. It's never happened before. So this is gigantic. This means that the data that the Trump campaign has is that Minnesota is actually winnable. The reason that this is so huge, it's been 52 years since the last time that a Republican won Minnesota for president, and that was Richard Nixon. So this is gigantic. It means that Minnesota is in play. And if you've watched any of my previous videos where I break down polling and data, I've told you that Minnesota is in play. So this kind of in and of itself is a big old pat on the back for me because, like I've been saying, Minnesota is in play. Now, what is so fascinating is that Democrats are trying to downplay this, and it's hilarious to watch them just drink it in, all the copium. But the truth of the matter is that President Donald Trump is ramping up to do something historic. And I'm not talking about just in Minnesota. I'm saying across the entire nation. But let's pay attention specifically here to Minnesota. We have the governor and the state house and the state senate all controlled by one party, and that's the Democrats. And they've had their run of the entire state. They've pushed forward and signed into law some of the most leftist progressive legislation in the entire country. I'm talking about driver's license for criminal aliens. I'm talking about free in-state college tuition for criminal aliens. I'm talking about free healthcare for criminal aliens. All of that has been pushed, signed, and passed by Democrats because they control Minnesota, known as the trifecta, along with a whole host of other insane progressive leftist pieces of legislation and policy. I think the average Minnesotan is finally waking up. I think that I'm a part of that. I think that all of you that watch my content, that share my videos, that like my videos, all of you that create content, organizations, news organizations like Alpha News, who are out there doing the hard work, so many radio hosts, John Justice over at Twin Cities News Talk, and you have the great hosts over at AM 1280, The Patriot, Brad Carlson, Mitch Berg, and shout out to the homie, Jack Tomzak. All of the work that all of us have been doing, pushing back against the narrative, it's working. Average, everyday Minnesotans are seeing through the BS narratives being spun by the corporate mainstream media, the ones that have all the local control, all of the institutional news controls here in the Twin Cities, along with actions like Elon Musk buying X. And we have a very active and vibrant community that's right of center right here in the Twin Cities. You have Crime Watch Minneapolis. They do a fantastic job sharing information and truth about what is happening when it comes to crime in Minneapolis and in the metro area. There's so many other, too many to name, but all of this, in my honest opinion and estimation, is part of the reason why Minnesota is in play. Not to mention that Donald Trump is an absolute G. I mean, there's that aspect too. But this is phenomenal news. And you know what? I want to give you some more good information. According to the Trump campaign, in the month of May, they raised $140+ million, completely eclipsing the Biden campaign, who only raised close to $85 million. Now, when you put this all together, right now, Donald Trump has more cash on hand than the Biden administration. Now, total amount of money raised, the Biden administration is still a little bit ahead, but this is crazy good. Like, if you look historically, the trend has been that Democrats way outraised Republicans. Like in 2016, Hillary raised almost 3 times, actually I think a little bit more than 3 times the amount of money than the Trump campaign, but Trump won in that year. But I will say that more money is better because it allows you to actually push back against the corporate mainstream media and against the narratives. Plus, you got this whole weird schism thing that's happening in the Democrat Party between the far left progressives that absolutely despise Israel and the Jews. Yeah, like, let's be very clear, because there's a lot of that going on in the Democrat Party, not just like the fringe elements, but like elected leaders and membership and elected officials. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum of the Democrats, they're like, oh, we're Jewish and we love Israel, or like we're the pro-Israel side. So that is tearing the Democrat Party apart. That is one of the reasons why Trump is in play in Minnesota, because Minnesota has a very large Israel-hating portion of the DFL. Like, that's just the truth. And so all of this plays into this larger understanding that Donald Trump has come for real to play in Minnesota. Pause. Like, he is really putting his money where his mouth is. 8 field offices is going to be awesome. There's going to be a bunch of field staff. Now, I will have the privilege of working with a lot of these folks because I was recently elected to be the Republican National Committee man for Minnesota. I serve on the state executive committee. Well, technically, my term doesn't start until like July 19th, but I've been privy to some information. I've heard some rumblings, and I'm so excited to be able to help Trump win here in Minnesota, which also helps down the rest of the ticket, down the rest of the ballot. All the other Republican offices that are up for grabs. Right now, we are close, according to the data, flipping Minnesota's state house from Democrat control to Republican control. In the Senate, we might actually be able to win that seat and flip control, which would be phenomenal because our state senators only run once every 4 years. So this year in 2024, they're actually not up for election. Now, if you're watching this video and you want to message me and say, how do I get involved? Right now, I don't have any information, but I promise you, the moment that I do, I will be blasting and making videos because I want every single person in Minnesota, even if you've never ever been involved in Republican Party politics, if you've never knocked on a door, made a phone call, went out and asked people if they need an absentee ballot, none of that. If you've done no election activities and you're still fired up, those are the folks that I actually want to reach out to. Those of you that have done it, you already know what to do. Go to your local BPOU, get connected, get integrated. BPOU stands for Basic Political Organizing Unit, and that's basically like your local unit of Republicans, so you can actually help where you live first, but you also can kind of like walk and chew gum, so you can go and door knock and drop off literature for your candidate that's running for state house, and you can also drop off literature for the congressional candidate, and you can also drop off literature for the President Trump in that presidential race. Now, to wrap all this up, put a nice little bow, Minnesota is in play. And if you actually want to see something change in this nation, if you actually want to see something change in Minnesota, you have to make a commitment to volunteering, to helping turn out the vote, helping get the message that the Republican Party, along with President Donald Trump and all of the other candidates down the ballot, our message, get it out to the people. You have to be willing to step up, raise your hand, and say, I will help. Now, if you can't physically help, open up your checkbook. If you can't do either of those, what are you even doing? I guess you love this country the way that things are, and you want to have more of the same. So if that's how you feel, then do nothing. But if you want something different, if you want to see change, you have to get involved. Now I'm jumping off of my soapbox. This is just fascinating news. I am so amped up. I'm so motivated. We will turn Minnesota red. Trump 2024, baby.